Hello everyone, welcome to my GMB News channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Ed Balls and Matthew Pennycook became embroiled in a tense row as the Labour politician was grilled on the expected cuts to disability benefits. The housing minister joined Balls and Susanna Reid on Tuesday's, March 11th, installment of Good Morning Britain after the government announced its promise to unleash seismic reforms to the planning system. However, the conversation took an abrupt turn as the Labour MP was forced to address reports that have indicated ministers are looking to shave £5 billion from a disability benefit claimed by 3.6 million people. Reid said, "We're inundated with people on PIP on disability payments who are frankly terrified about the fact you're about to take their money away." The politician said he appreciates the anxiety of those who rely on benefits but explained he was not in a position to set out those changes. Reading out a message from a viewer, Balls shared how a woman named Vicky is terrified about her partner losing his PIP benefit as he is battling terminal cancer. He asked, "What Labour principle could possibly justify taking money away from somebody who has an extreme disability and can't work?" The Labour MP said he was more than happy to explain the principles behind the decision, before Balls immediately interjected. "I'm talking about someone who can't work with an extreme disability. If they lose it, what principle could justify that?" he said. Pennycook claimed the principles behind the changes will be, those who need support will receive support, before insisting the government needs to restore trust and confidence into the system. But this didn't sit well with the presenter as he asked once again, what principle could justify the freezing or cutting of benefits to somebody who cannot work? Pennycook responded, "There will be people in the system who can never work, but there are a significant number of people who can and want to work and are not being provided with the support to do that." The former politician shut him down with 7 words saying, "I understand that and that's really good," before asking the same question once again. The pair began overlapping each other as Balls referred back to Vicky, declaring, "It's a Labour government and you can't tell us whether they will have a cut in their benefit." Pennycook hit back, "I don't know how much clearer I can be. You'll know from your time as a minister yourself that I cannot come onto this program and preempt a government announcement that will be made in the usual way in due course. I'm here to announce a significant overhaul of a planning system for a landmark piece of legislation we are introducing in the House of Commons today." In one final dig at the politician, Balls quipped, "And I think on that latter point you've done that, so thank you for coming on and talking to us today." The morning sunlight filtered through the glass panels of the Good Morning Britain studio as Ed Balls adjusted his notes, preparing for what he knew would be a contentious discussion. Across from him, Labour's housing minister Matthew Pennycook shifted in his chair, already sensing the inevitable onslaught of questions. It had been a turbulent 24 hours in British politics. The government had announced sweeping changes to the planning system, branding it as a seismic reform to unleash new housing developments. But the revelation that ministers were eyeing a £5 billion cut to disability benefits had cast a long shadow over the announcement. The news had sparked panic among the 3.6 million people who relied on personal independence payments (PIP) to survive, flooding the show's inbox with messages of distress and anger. Susanna Reid began the segment with a practiced professionalism, laying out the key details of the planned cuts. Then she turned to Pennycook. "Minister, people are terrified. We've had messages pouring in from viewers who are genuinely scared about losing the support they depend on. How can Labour justify this?" Pennycook exhaled, clasping his hands together. "I completely understand the anxiety this has caused. Let me be clear. Labour's guiding principle is ensuring those who need support receive it. We are committed to a fair welfare system. However..." Before he could finish, Balls interjected. "However, Minister, I have a message here from a woman named Vicky. Her partner has terminal cancer. They rely on his PIP payments to get through the day. She is terrified he will lose it. What Labour principle justifies taking money away from someone in that position?" A silence lingered for a moment as Pennycook gathered his thoughts. "Ed, the principle is that those who can work should be supported into employment, while those who cannot will continue to receive help. What we need to do is restore trust in the system." Balls leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "I'm talking about people who cannot work. What principle justifies cutting their benefits?" Pennycook shifted in his seat. Ed, I think we have to wait until the full details of the policy are announced. There will be safeguards for those in extreme situations. So you can't confirm that Vicky's partner who has terminal cancer won't lose his benefits? Balls pressed. The two men began speaking over each other, voices rising in intensity. Pennycook repeated his line about waiting for policy details, while Balls kept hammering his point home. This is a Labour government, and you can't tell us whether these people will lose their benefits. Finally, Pennycook snapped, his patience worn thin. Ed, you know from your own time as a minister that I cannot preempt government policy before an official announcement is made. Balls let the tension hang in the air before delivering his final line. And I think on that latter point you've done that. Thank you for coming on and talking to us today. The segment ended abruptly, leaving an uneasy silence in the studio as Pennycook unclipped his microphone and left the set. Behind the cameras, producers were already fielding a fresh wave of messages from viewers, their fears unassuaged. As Balls turned to his co-host, Susanna gave him a knowing look. Well, that didn't exactly clear anything up, did it? No, Balls admitted, shaking his head. And something tells me this conversation isn't over. The aftermath of the interview rippled through Westminster. Within hours, social media was ablaze with clips of the exchange, and disability rights groups issued statements condemning the government's apparent lack of clarity. Opposition MPs seized on the moment, demanding answers. Pennycook, meanwhile, found himself at the heart of a growing political firestorm. Behind closed doors in Downing Street, tensions were running high. Labour strategists debated how best to handle the fallout. Some urged Pennycook to issue a clarifying statement, while others insisted that staying the course was the best approach. The Prime Minister herself was reportedly furious that the announcement of their planning reforms had been overshadowed by the welfare cuts controversy. By the time Pennycook returned to his office, his phone was inundated with messages. Some supportive, many scathing. He exhaled deeply and rubbed his temples. He had expected a tough interview, but he hadn't anticipated just how relentless Balls would be. His chief advisor, Lauren, entered the room, a printout of headlines in her hand. It's all over the place. Balls exposes Labour's disability cuts. Pennycook under fire over welfare row. This isn't going away. Pennycook sighed. We need to control the narrative. Set up a meeting with the PM's office. We have to clarify our position before this spirals further. Lauren hesitated. And what exactly is our position? He didn't have an answer. Meanwhile, Ed Balls was still reeling from the intensity of the confrontation. After the show wrapped, he sat in his dressing room, scrolling through the messages from viewers. Many were grateful for his persistence. Others accused him of grandstanding. But one message stood out, a direct email from Vicky herself. Thank you for asking the questions we needed answers to, it read. I still don't know what's going to happen to us, but at least someone is fighting for us. Balls stared at the screen for a long moment before closing his laptop. He knew one thing for certain. This was just the beginning. And if Pennycook and the Labour government thought the issue would fade, they were sorely mistaken. The next morning, Good Morning Britain aired yet another segment on the fallout. Pennycook, unsurprisingly, declined an invitation to return to the show. Instead, a government spokesperson was sent to do damage control, offering vague reassurances that support for the most vulnerable would remain a priority. Balls smirked as the spokesperson dodged yet another direct question. Seems like we're still not getting any straight answers, are we, Susanna? No, Ed, Reed replied, shaking her head. And if the government doesn't provide them soon, I suspect we'll be having this conversation for a long time to come. As the cameras rolled on, the nation watched, waiting for answers that still refused to come. So what do you guys think about this update? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like my videos, please press like and subscribe for more. I'll see you guys next time.